Barriers. With so many people from different generations working together, it's no surprise that issues tend to arise. The biggest of the barriers facing this vast community of nurses is communication. Each group interacts differently, each having different motivators and reasons for doing what they do. Generation Z. Post-millennials are the first generation to grow up as digital natives, those who experience the internet as part of their daily lives at a young age. This generation has spent much of their lives in front of screens, which has led to specific communication preferences. While at home, 65% of Generation Z prefer to communicate online more often than in person. In addition, it is hypothesized that growing up with lightning-fast internet and upload speeds may have impacted their preferences on speed in communication and also expectations on rapid responses from whoever they are sending a message. However, Generation Z's communication preferences are quite different when at work or when communicating with other generations. In professional settings, it has been shown that the best way to communicate with Generation Z employees is through face-to-face communication. Millennials. While some millennials grew up just before the start of the digital age, most millennials are digital natives. With millennials' tendency to constantly stay connected to others digitally, it is no surprise that 92% of millennials own smartphones. The ease of texting or messaging others through online apps on smartphones as opposed to calling over the phone has had a huge impact on millennial communication preferences. Some millennials have said they don't answer phone calls because it was time-consuming. Similarly, in the workplace settings, millennials are also often avoid face-to-face interactions, instead preferring to use online messaging, software, or email to communicate with bosses or coworkers. Therefore, the best way to communicate with millennial employees is reaching them through digital messaging apps, whether over the phone or computer. Generation X. Members of Generation X were the first generation to incorporate digital technology into their youth. Generation X became early adopters of email, and the simplicity of interpersonal communication through the medium affected the generation's communication preferences as they grew into adulthood. Email is this generation's preferred form of communication, whether at work or in the comforts of their home. Generation X prefers receiving and using short, brief messages as opposed to lengthy ones. The ability to utilize forms of digital technology enables Generation X to connect with younger people such as millennials or Generation Z. As such, Gen X is the bridge between the future generations of workers and those closer to retirement, such as the baby boomers. Baby boomers. Baby boomers grew up in a time when the telephone transitioned from a bulky and expensive device to a smaller unit that the average family could afford. Still, the cost of making some calls or using a private line may have impacted the preferences of baby boomers, causing an imbalance of personal and technological communications. In relation to Generation Z, the best way to communicate with baby boomers at work or at home is through face-to-face conversations. Though baby boomers prefer speaking both in person and on the phone, some do use online communication methods as well. Technology. Nursing is becoming more digital. Patients can get consultations virtually as the healthcare industry changes. The challenge is making sure the older generation embraces those changes while the newer generation maintains the fundamentals of nursing. Management style. Because each group has their own unique set of traits and attributes, it can be tough to know how to manage them all. Since they each have their own communication style and unique motivators, managing different generations at once and finding ways to engage members of each group can be challenging. Negative stereotypes. Lazy, entitled, tech-obsessed, overeager. These are just a few of the terms that come to mind for many older workers when they think of millennials and members of the younger generations. Younger workers, in turn, may perceive baby boomers as difficult to train and stubbornly set in their ways. Overcoming existing stereotypes is hard. It takes a conscious effort to distinguish your own talents and not let preconceived notions do that for you. Workers need to match their vision of success with the work ethic that it will take to get there, meaning a willingness to go beyond what's expected.